What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to talk about EB-01. You see, I've got my ear to the ground with all of this stuff, and I'm paying a little bit of attention. And the One Piece card game shop in the UK, they keep giving updates about their stock. And a lot of the time I see the updates about the stock and I'm like, okay, cool. But I saw the update of the stock this past week, and something stood out to me pretty clearly. So we have a look. We'll ignore the starter decks for now. We'll worry about the sets. There's 3 shops in the UK. In Camden, they've got stock of OP-02 to OP-10 and Premium Booster 01. Okay, no OP-01, but come on. We know at this stage Romance Dawn is gone. I'm sorry. In Brighton, they've got OP-02 to OP-10 and Premium Booster 01. Okay, fine. No Romance Dawn. We don't really expect it at this point. In the Metro Centre, up in the north, up in Gateshead, they've got OP-02 to OP-10 and Premium Booster 01. So nowhere's got Romance Dawn, but that's kind of understandable. It is Romance Dawn at the end of the day. It's the first set. That makes sense. Hang on a second. There's another set missing. None of the 3 shops over in the UK right now have any stock of EB-01, the extra booster, the Memorial Collection. And this jumps out to me. Because remember, the way it generally works is when you go to the official stores, you're not getting a big deal on cards. You're not getting cards below retail. And I know not everyone does this, but the general rule in business is, if you are the official store, you generally don't undercut other stores. You generally don't lower your prices below other stores because it's seen as bad form to lower your prices and basically undercut other stores when you've got direct access because you are the manufacturer. So generally speaking, official stores like the One Piece store, you're not getting big deals on the cards. You're not getting them super cheap, but they do tend to have more stock. That's the way it generally goes. Other places don't have as much stock, but they've got more freedom to do what they like in terms of lowering prices, etc. But like I say, it's generally considered poor form to be the official store and then undercut the other stores around that don't just have the option of having as much stock as you. So you're not getting a deal, but they are having more stock. Well, all 3 of the UK stores have no stock of EB-01. And that kind of tells me one thing pretty clearly. EB-01's on the way out. Now, if 1 or 2 of the stores had no stock, there's various reasons for this. Sometimes you could argue that more stock should go to Camden, because that's the flagship store. You could argue that more stock should go to Brighton, because that's a newer store and they're trying to push it. Or if one of those stores isn't doing as well as the others, maybe you would redirect more stock there to try and boost sales to get more people going over. But if all 3 of the stores are sold out of the same set, that generally tells you that set's done. Like I told you, they're all out of Romance Dawn. Well, no one's surprised they're out of Romance Dawn. Romance Dawn is the first set. It's actually the only one that's sold out at this point. But, come on. That set is absolutely huge. And obviously, back in OP-01, we've got things like the Old Tart Nami, we've got things like the Old Tart Zoro, we've got leaders like the Doflamingo, which obviously right now is very big given how great that card is. Yes, I'm well aware that post-ban list it's not going to be quite as good, but still, there are a bunch of really good cards in that set, and the prices are going to keep going up because, well, the set's gone. Sorry about that. But EB-01 going, that is a little bit weird. Because again, if we think about this from a timeline standpoint, OP-02 should be the second set that goes. Because you would imagine they would sell out roughly in the order they were released. And EB-01 was actually released after OP-06. So OP-02, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are still there. And it's only EB-01 which is gone. And that's bizarre, frankly. That's very, very weird. What have we got in terms of an explanation here? Well, I don't work for Bandai, I don't know for certain, but there's basically 2 options here. Option number 1, it's only actually temporarily sold out, it's going to come back soon, they're doing a bit of a reprint. But option number 2, which really is the case for number 1, even if they are doing a reprint, they didn't print as many. EB-01 probably had a smaller print run, and this makes sense. Because if you look at EB-01, it only had one secret rare rather than the usual 2. It only had 3 leaders rather than the usual 6. There's no special rares in EB-01. To put it simply, it is a smaller set. There are fewer cards in there. Now, there's quite a bunch of really playable cards. We'll get to them in a minute. But there's a very good chance that Bandai basically said, you know what, EB-01, smaller set, fewer cards in there, easier to collect the set as a whole. We don't need to do as big a print run, and they probably had a whole bunch of data on which they were basing this decision. But that's essentially my guess for now. For OP-02 all the way through to the new OP-10 to be in stock, even sets like OP-05 and OP-09, which we know are phenomenal sets, they are the 2 best sets so far, for all of them to be in stock at all 3 locations, but EB-01 to be sold out at all 3 locations, that's pretty gosh darn relevant at this point. And here's the thing. I'm telling you maybe there'll be a reprint. I have nothing to base this on. Right now, if there had been an announcement, I would be sharing it with you. I'd be giving you a little screen grab of them saying, don't worry, EB-01's coming back. As it stands, EB-01 seems to be done. And I've gone and had a quick look at the singles and weird things are happening. Now, obviously, the Manga Rare is still the most expensive card in the set. It's Chopper. It's about $700 right now. It's not actually one of the biggest Manga Rares by a long shot, but it is there. And Tony Chopper is adorable, let's be honest. And obviously, at this stage, we can have a look and go, well, yeah, okay, the alternate art Boncray Bentham, yes, that's a very expensive card. But firstly, it's Nami artwork. Secondly, that card is very playable. That all adds up. That all makes an awful lot of sense. The Cavendish is actually the number 3 card in the set right now, sitting at $65. I'm, of course, talking about the Alt Art Cavendish. But then again, the Alt Art Cavendish is phenomenal playability-wise. Because on play and when attacking, if you've got a Supernova leader and no other Cavendish in play, set 2 of your Don cards to active. You get 2 extra Don per turn to use. And we know that, well, I don't know how good they're going to be going forward, but right now, Bonnie decks are legit. And it seems a lot like they're going to keep being legit in the future. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Things like the Brock coming in at $40. That's actually the number 7 card in the set right now. That's a playable card, so this makes sense. But the fact that the number 7 card is in at $40 and it's an alternate art of a very playable card, that kind of tells you what you need to know, honestly. This is not a huge set. Not in that regard. To put it simply, the singles are still cheap enough that you can basically just ignore boxes and go and buy singles. The only really expensive ones are the Manga Chopper and the Alt Art Boncray Bentham, and then maybe like the Cavendish, but not really. But then we've got weird things going on. So the regular secret rare, Boncray Bentham, is like a $50 card right now. But it's an extremely playable card. Generally speaking, there's only one secret rare in the set, so it's actually the easiest secret rare to pull of any One Piece set because there's only one in the set, so it's going to come out twice as often as the sets where there's 2. But it's so playable, it ends up getting pumped up. How about the Shirahoshi? Now, the alternate art is $35, but the regular's $25. And actually, this kind of makes sense, because that Shirahoshi is an extremely playable card. And when the boxes are becoming harder and harder to find, then the playable cards are going to then start jumping up in price. You know, and that Shirahoshi, it's a blocker, but if it's KO'd by an effect, you get to recover a life. So your opponent can't really KO it using an effect. They have to attack into it. So it's basically a blocker that forces your opponent to actually attack into it rather than use an effect to get rid of it, which is super annoying. But even like the regular Cavendish is sitting there at $40, which is expensive for a regular super rare. And that's where we kind of end up with this set. Because a lot of the alternate arts are still actually pretty cheap and you're fine. But the playable cards are actually jumping up in price. Cavendish is a $40 card. Shirahoshi is a $25 card. The Tony Chopper is a $35 card. If you pick all 3 of those out of a box, and they are just, regular super rares, but you pull all 3 of them, that's $100 for those 3 cards. That's the box paid for. And bearing in mind there's only 8 super rares in the set, and you get 7 per box, and Brook's like a $20 card as well. So if you can find a box at RRP right now with EB-01, you're basically gonna make your money back in singles just off the super rares. But I've got to mention right now, Finger Pistols are rare, and it's like a $13 card for a rare. And I can give you the answer here. Finger Pistol is a phenomenal card that sees a bunch of play. Because you get to trash 2 cards on the top of your deck to KO a 5 cost or less, either as a main or a trigger. Brilliant card, sees a whole bunch of play. And we've ended up with this one at like $13. And it's ahead of like the Inazuma alternate art, the Miss Wednesday alternate art, the Khalifa alternate art. It's a rare card, which is actually coming in more expensive than 3 of the alternate arts in the set. That's weird. But that's what happens when you have and this is how we kind of know the set is selling out, and it might come back in the future by all means, but this is how we know this is happening, because we've got weird things like this going on. Essentially, the playable cards are now just rocketing up in price, and weirdly, the alternate arts aren't necessarily keeping pace. So if you're looking for singles, it might be time to start going after some of these singles. Now, if a reprint comes down, it's going to push the prices down, and that's amazing. And it is weird, frankly, because generally speaking, if it was released after OP06, it was a 7th set released, we wouldn't expect it to be the 2nd set to sell out. That doesn't really track normally. Unfortunately, that's where we are. All I can do is tell you what we know. I've told you now, so now it's over to you guys. What do you think about these? How much have you picked up EB-01? Do you have any gaps in your collection? Do they need to go and be fixed? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at Lawasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wassy Plays.